Hello and welcome to Keith Anime and Politics channel. Today I would like to discuss the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act, aka Hong Kong Act, and its practical implications on Hong Kong. Let's start by saying that the passing of the Hong Kong Act is a great moral victory for the protesters. This bill essentially says respect Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy and human rights, or else there will be consequences. The bill was passed with unanimous consent in the Senate, which means the whole Senate supports the bill. It was then passed in the House of Representatives, also by unanimous assent. No other bill in the Trump administration ever came close to being passed by such overwhelming margin. The Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act 2019, which was passed by the House of Representatives recently, only got 407 affirmative votes. This shows the American Congress is strongly behind the people of Hong Kong, a great show of solidarity. Anyway, on to the Hong Kong Bill summary. Firstly, under Section 4 of the Hong Kong Act, it requires the Secretary of State to certify annually that Hong Kong has sufficient autonomy to justify its special treatment under the Hong Kong Policy Act 1992. This mainly relates to the trade treaties and the Permanent Normal Trade Relations (NTR), formerly known as Most Favored Nation. This means the USA would continue to investigate and judge the autonomy of Hong Kong and certify it if it is satisfactory. Should the Secretary of State find that there is insufficient autonomy for Hong Kong, he or she would then fail to certify, and Hong Kong would lose its separate special treatment mainly in trading terms. This would cause a huge loss of face to China, because not only would it show that China broke its promise of high degree of autonomy for Hong Kong would also suffer economic hardship as Hong Kong is mainly a trading nation. It would lower the esteem of China in the eyes of the international community. If there is only one thing China cares about, it would be its face. China doesn't want to be seen as mismanaging the Hong Kong prosperity, as it would be a blow to its prestige as an economic manager. Furthermore, this section directs the Secretary of State to disregard any detention, arrest, or criminal record pertaining to the protests when considering their visa application. This is essentially the USA saying, that's right, they don't give a fuck about China justice system. Huge win for protesters here. Now, Section 5 requires the Secretary of Commerce to prepare an annual report assessing whether Hong Kong is adequately enforcing US export regulation as well as UN sanctions. Of particular interest is the goods transit from Hong Kong, which can be used in predictive policing, mass surveillance, or helps China's social credit system. These items fall under USA export regulations. This means Hong Kong should not be used as a hub for importing or aiding in China's system of mass surveillance of its citizens. That shows Hong Kong is clean, unlike China when it comes to human rights. Meanwhile, Section 6 requires the President to determine mainly the validity of safety of US citizens with regards to the extradition treaty USA has with Hong Kong. It also compels the State Department to revise its travel advisory should it deem it necessary. This would only lower the tourist count and is of no particular benefit to Hong Kong. Section 7 is the most important one for Hong Kong. This is the section that gives thanks to the Hong Kong protester. It compels the President to determine and identify who is responsible for kidnappings, arbitrary detention, torture, or violations of internationally recognized human rights. The President is then empowered to impose sanctions on them. Sanctions include freezing of assets, visa restriction lah, cancellation of visa lah, or even imprisonment up to 20 years in certain cases. These sanctions will give the Hong Kong government pause when they deal with the protesters. They will fear the wrath of USA falling down on their head if they continue to violate human rights when treating the protesters. This section in particular is a big win for the protesters. It vindicates what the protesters have been saying all along, that there were organized instances of police brutality with the tacit approval from the very top. The Hong Kong protesters' fight for freedom and democracy has the support of the USA and its legal system now. Hong Kongers can breathe a sigh of relief to know that their efforts were not in vain. The protesters can start by compiling a list of people who violate human rights, and then forward it to the US government. This part protects the protesters from escalating police brutality. No matter how high a position a person has, they can't escape justice. The rest of the act mainly deals with reporting as well as concerns about China's propaganda media. Also covered are the ban of crowd control supplies to Hong Kong for fear of their uncontrolled use on protesters. So to summarize, USA will start judging Hong Kong autonomy and take action if it's threatened. So don't worry Hong Kong, the US is with you. Protesters' involvement in the protest is absolved of any repercussions as far as the USA is concerned. So student visas, things like that will proceed as normal without regard to any arrest or detention that may occur thanks to the protest. USA will also start sanctioning people involved in human rights abuse in Hong Kong. This is very important as it will tell the police don't simply use force, excessive force. And Hong Kong will cooperate with US to enforce USA export control and UN sanctions. All this proves that the USA is firmly behind the Hong Kong people and its protesters. With USA leading the way, more and more countries will come out in open to support the Hong Kong protesters. The future is bright for the protest movement and their demands. Hong Kong's future is safe in these courageous and idealistic youngsters' hands. Anyway, thanks for watching and do subscribe if you like the video. My next video on Hong Kong will talk more on the risk of China unrest due to the slowing economy and its possible effect on Hong Kong. So anyway, once again, thanks for watching. Goodbye.